Hello everyone. This video is going to go over our exercise today, which is making spheres with the Sumopaint extension. For this assignment, we're going to just sort of practice how to make a sphere and have it look three-dimensional. So we're going to use something called the 5 aspects of light. When you're making the sphere, you're going to make a highlight, and the highlight is the lightest, brightest point on the sphere, and it's where the sunlight or whatever light source is hitting the surface. And then you'll see the midtones is where it's starting to shade and get darker as it's sort of going around the sphere and starting to be hidden from that light source, down to your core shadow, which is the darkest area on your object. You'll see there's a reflected light, and this reflected light is a lighter area, and it's the light bouncing off of the surface that the object is sitting on. And then the last one is your cast shadow, and the cast shadow is the shadow on the ground on the surface that the sphere is on. So we're essentially going to make this and practice these 5 aspects of light using Sumo and learning to sort of control our paint brushes. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to your layers down on the bottom right, and you're going to make a new layer. We're actually going to start on layer 1 because we're going to create the sphere on layer 1, and then we're going to create the cast shadow on the background layer. Then you're going to go over to your tools, and what you're going to do is you're going to use the paintbrush tool to paint. But what would be easier to start with is we're actually going to select a circle so that we can paint within that selected circle, and it keeps the edges of the sphere really crisp. So I'm going to grab this rectangular section tool, and I'm going to grab the sphere, the circle, and then I'm just going to click and drag to make a circle. Okay, and that blue line is the selection. Then I'm going to switch to the paintbrush, and in this circle, I'm actually just going to start with a gray. I'm just going to come on over here and choose like a mid-gray tone. And then I'm just going to color the whole thing in. And you'll see what happened is everything outside the selection disappeared, and it only kept what was in the middle. So now we have a solid circle on our layer 1. So next, on our paintbrush, we're going to start to do some shading and adding highlights and our shadows and our cast shadow. So the first thing we want to do is choose white. So I'm actually going to go down to my bottom of my tools, and I'm going to click on the black and white. I'm going to switch to white. And right now, when I click on white, it's actually not too bad because I've gone up to my options and I have selected airbrush. Remember, we don't want to use a hard edge. We want to use something that's going to allow us to blend. So using this, I can start with just making the highlight where the light source is hitting the sphere. And I also want to do some blending. So I want to actually change my opacity, and I'm going to bump it down pretty low. And I'm going to change the flow down pretty low. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some gentle circles around, and I re-click. And it's allowing me to sort of create these gradual white areas. Now I'm going to switch to black. I might make the brush a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to go in, and again, I'm making the circular motions. I'm not going straight across it. I want it to sort of blend. I find using the mouse pad on the Chromebooks can be a little tricky. If you have a mouse from an old computer that you can dig out, you can attach a mouse to your Chromebook, and I find that that's a little bit easier to use. Now I'm switching back to white. I'm bringing some of that white area back that I think got too dark. I'm just, again, making circular motions. And I'm just playing around with the opacity and using a small brush. And then I would keep going. I'd bring some of my reflected light back in, and I'd go back dark again and sort of keep playing until I feel like I got a good range of tones. And then on your background layer, what you're going to do is we got to unselect the sphere. So I'm going to click on that move tool. I'm just going to click off of the ball. I think actually I have to use the selection tool. I click off. And then on the background layer, I'm going to use the brush with black. And I'm going to start to create my cast shadow. I'm going to go in and I'm going to keep light, darkening it. And you can see that reflected light now allows the ball to sort of stand out a little bit from that cast shadow. And then I would, keep going and play around with it until I got to the values that I like. And then you'll go up to File, Save to my computer, save it as a JPEG. I'm going to name it just like we do with everything. Your name, G in grade, and sphere. Save. Save it to my digital arts folder. And then I'm done. And I will go to Google Classroom, attach it, and submit the assignment.